Välkommen! I'm John Denore, and this is Goblin Points, a podcast covering MCDM, the MCDM community, and whatever else MCDM related. December has been a Goxomoc of a month. The Crowdfunder launched and went completely gangbusters. The playtest packet for patrons went out before the year's end. Let's start off with the RPG. And let's just say, there's a lot. With the Crowdfunder launching, there has been a whole lot of info that's dropped. So, let's talk Crowdfunder. This is, without a doubt, MCDM's biggest Crowdfunder campaign. At the time of recording, it's almost at $3.9 million from nearly 24,000 backers. That beats Flea Mortals at just over $2 million, Kingdoms and Warfare at almost 1.4, and Strongholds and Followers at just over 2.1. After the campaign ends, it'll still be possible to pre-order the hardcover books from the Pledge Manager on BackerKit. If you're not able to get in now, there will be plenty of time to pre-order the physical copies before release. The most expensive tier, the Ajax edition, which had over 999 available spots, sold out in a little over an hour after the launch of the Crowdfunder. Surprised by the popularity, MCDM secured a second wave of the Ajax edition from the manufacturer. The 875 spots for the second wave also sold out quickly, and there won't be a third wave as it's frankly too much work. Someone has to pack all those boxes, and there's only so many hours in a day. The stretch goal for a virtual tabletop was reached within the first day of the campaign. That means that MCDM is going to spend resources developing their own VTT and accompanying digital tools like Character Sheet, Online Companion, and Monster Editor. They have been very clear. This only means they'll spend time and money on a VTT, but they won't guarantee that one will surface. They do, however, already have a partner working on it, and they showed a couple of screenshots from a working prototype. Whether it comes to fruition, only time will tell. They want to build their own custom virtual tabletop. That way purchases can transfer across from the shop to the VTT, removing the need to purchase content multiple times. It also ensures everything works correctly and the way they want, and users of the VTT will not have to jump through hoops or do any kind of setup to get it working with the RPG. James and Matt said that they want to create a marketplace for stuff people make for the RPG. The license will not limit creators to only publish on the MCDM marketplace, but will allow creators to publish the stuff they make on any marketplace they may wish. Existing VTTs will still be able to support the RPG. How they go about doing that depends on the VTT though. They all have idiosyncratic ways of implementing rules and who does the work of implementing them. James didn't rule out the possibility of partnering or working with other VTTs to enable support for the RPG. The second stretch goal of the campaign was to start production on a box set containing setting details for Vesloria. Vesloria is fantasy medieval Europe, so it mostly makes the same assumptions as one would make in the Forgotten Realms setting in D&D. As an example of stuff to be included in the box set is a booklet with details about the Vesloria region, a book on the territory of Andrim, adventures set in Andrim, maps, and other handouts. The reaching of the stretch goal is, once again, not a guarantee that the box set will be published, only that resources will be spent to work on it. And once again, only time will tell if that work ends in a product release. During the campaign, there has also been a few updates. There is now a preview pages for the Revenant, the Undead ancestry, and the Human ancestry. The biggest update, however, might be that MCDM is partnering with Trenchworks, whom they have a long working relationship with, to produce a whole line of minis for the RPG. Trenchworks has announced their MCDM miniatures line, and it's now available for purchase in their shop. They are also providing STL files for those that want to 3D print their minis. As a boon for backers of the Crowdfunder, The STL file for the Pocket Cobalt shown in the previews were included for free. This is going to be a lasting partnership according to a response to a comment on the announcement. Asked, wait, Trenchworks is going to support the upcoming RPG? Like, long term, we might have minis for a ton of MCDM monsters, not just Kickstarters? The official MCDM account answered, it does mean that. So, what's next? James and Matt have the impression that the core design of the game is in good shape and is moving their main focus on to the next thing, character creation and character progression. But to get started on that, literacy and language needs a prototype first. Literacy and languages determines not only which languages you know, but also how well you know them. Imagine you find an old book from some ancient civilization. How well you know that language impacts how much information you're able to glean from the book. It might tell you how to make a fantastical weapon of great power, but are you able to read the required steps to make it work? And are you able to interpret them correctly? Crafting and research also needs a prototype. Once you find out how to make something, you'll be able to spend downtime crafting it. Simpler items might only take a short while, but some more complex things, like a flying castle, might take a long time. You might level up multiple times while working on a single thing. The official name is still not known. Matt has hinted that it might be announced before the crowdfunder ends, but they're not really in a hurry to announce. They like it to be right rather than rushed. The temporary name of the MCDM RPG still works even when the proper name is announced. Searching for the MCDM RPG should still point you in the right direction. Matt said that at some point there will probably be some work done on a unifying setting guide, with details on Orden and how the setting works. Currently, the lore is spread all throughout MCDM's products, but there's going to be a need to have all that information in a single place. Speaking of multiple MCDM products, it's not a given that there's going to be a port of MCDM's previous products to the new RPG, but rules from those products may be included piecemeal in new products. They might not be bundled into system-themed books like Strongholds and Followers and Kingdoms and Warfare. James mentioned specifically that the organization rules would fit very well with Capital, with the political intrigue and scheming gameplay of the city. The warfare rules would probably better fit with Vesloria, the medieval Europe setting. Flea Mortals is a replacement for the D&D 5e monster manual, but no such replacement is needed here. One of the two core rulebooks is literally called Monsters, which will evolve the Flea Mortals design for the MCDM RPG. James has already started contacting people regarding work on porting monsters from Flea Mortals to the RPG. Matt has said that Where Evil Lives will not be ported directly. The RPG has a higher focus on movement, and Where Evil Lives is not optimized for that. Porting it directly would lead to boring encounters. Speaking of the Monsters book, it will probably include encounter building tools and, James hopes, tools for building your own monsters. Some things will not make it over from Flea Mortals though, such as villain parties. While great, they are scrapped in favor of more stat blocks for each monster, and monsters that MCDM see as core to the setting. The core rulebook is called Heroes, and contains all the rules needed to play the game. This includes character creation, and all the bits and bobs needed to create a complete hero, core rules, supernatural items, and some advice on how to run the game. There will not be a director-specific book. MCDM feels that directors will rely on other sources for how to run their games. They'll learn by playing with other directors, by reading, listening, or watching directors talk about their experiences, or by watching actual plays. MCDM reiterated that the intended open license will allow third parties to create adventures for the RPG. They've said that an open license is crucial for a vibrant community and the health and longevity of the RPG. MCDM also wants to do long pre-written adventures, but may start out with some smaller adventures, good for teaching the RPG to new people. They may reuse adventures developed for testing and upgrade them to full adventures. The adventures do currently lean heavily into what's being tested, but they are designed to introduce new people to the RPG. The RPG is not about exploring the wilderness or hex crawling. Rules for diseases, starvation, or other survival rules are not part of the core game. The same goes for solo play or 1v1 games. The game is not about that, and it's difficult to balance for both groups of characters and a single character. The optimal number of players will probably be 5 to 6, excluding the director. James has also tested with games with 3 players and 7 players, which also worked fine. There will be some text indicating how far you can travel in a day, but there's not going to be any detailed rules for managing resources. You won't need to make sure you rest a sufficient amount, or else you won't be able to travel as far the next day. Single adventures might, however, focus on themes that need rules for exploration or travel or solo play, and in those cases, the adventure will include those rules specifically. At level 1, characters are already heroes, and at max level 10, they are basically demigods. Every level is a significant step up in power, so that a level 10 hero is at the same power level as someone at level 20 in D&D, for example. With limiting it to 10 levels, the intention is that the heroes will be able to reach max level during a campaign instead of petering out 2/3 of the way to the max level. There have been some questions on how the dice scale up with levels. One way to power up abilities is to use D8s. That's in addition to the characteristic scores also increasing the bonuses they give to abilities. When it comes to character customization, the goal is to strike a balance between having meaningful choices in the design of the character, but not to overwhelm new players. In addition to subclasses, the goal is that every level lets you make a decision, a different ability or feature that distinguishes your hero from another player's hero. A hero is a combination of the class, the kit, the ancestry, the upbringing, how they were raised, and a career or past, what they did before becoming a hero. Multiclassing is not going to be part of the RPG. Instead, the customization and tweaking allowed by multiclassing in other systems is covered by choices during character creation and when leveling up. By using the right kit, having the right upbringing, and choosing the correct past, you can create a tactician that acts much like a shadow, but you won't be able to do exactly what a shadow does, and using shadow class abilities, etc. But you can still sneak, hide, use a cloak and dagger, and be a shadowy operative. James has said that they are actively making sure that each class has their own niche, which other classes don't encroach too much on. There will be subclasses though. When you get to choose your subclass is still uncertain though. It will depend on the class, but James also wants it to be after level 1, most likely level 2. The thinking is that you've got enough choices to make when creating a level 1 hero. James mentioned some of the ancestries that might show up in the RPG. All of these will not necessarily be part of the core rules, but may show up in future products. The ancestries are dwarves, high elves and woad elves, humans, Memeneks, orcs, Proteans, some kind of dragon folk with a possible name of Wormwights, and Revenant, the undead. Let's talk about kits. A kit is the loadout of equipment that a hero is using and the training they have with that equipment. The Shining Armor kit imitates a knight in shining armor. You'll be using a big weapon and wearing a lot of metal armor. The Cloak and Dagger kit imitates the classic assassin. You're wearing a big dark cloak to hide in the shadows while wielding one or multiple daggers. Kits are an important part of character customization and not only dictates what equipment your hero is using, but also how you play. Kits grant bonuses to your stats, extra health, farther melee reach, longer distances on to ranged attacks, more of movement speed. There might also be some rules regarding which heroes can use which kits. There might be some limitations based on ancestry, size, or having the right title. There are some kits included in the Crowdfunder preview, but they are already outdated. In an update on Patreon, James outlines the changes they've made to kits since that first iteration. Titles are a bit like feats, but you have to do something to earn them. Some titles are low-level titles, which can be picked upon character creation, but others have strict criteria that need to be met before the title is earned. If you become a local hero by saving the children from the cave troll, or join a company of knights vowed to defeat all evil, you might receive a title. Some titles may grant access to certain groups or locations, while other titles may grant abilities. Matt imagines that there will be specific titles for heroes that have died and come back. They've learned something on the other side, and now they have some new ability they can use. The way to upgrade your kit is to obtain better equipment, and that means supernatural weapons. The Crowdfunder campaign includes an example of a supernatural weapon, the Quintessence Blade. The bonuses from the blade are added on top of the bonuses from your kit. The example also shows how a weapon becomes stronger as the hero using it levels up. It's expected that heroes keep the supernatural items they find to the end of their career, and that the weapons become more powerful as the hero becomes more powerful. You don't have to find all those new weapons and armor. With a crafting system, you'll be able to make better armor and weapons for yourself. There will be utility abilities that can be used outside of combat. These might, for example, be granted by your titles, past, or background. There hasn't been much talk of these yet, since combat has been receiving the most focus. There isn't a concept of rituals. Instead, the RPG leverages the crafting system for powerful abilities that take time to summon. Teleporting to anywhere in the world, shifting planes, or resurrecting someone requires supernatural items which take time to craft. When a hero is damaged to 0 health, they become unstable. They're not out of the fight. They're still able to act, but at a price. Using an action drains their health. Once they reach negative half their health, they die outright. By the time the heroes are 2nd or 3rd level, they will have access to supernatural items that allow them to bring others back from the dead. A lot of people have been asking whether it'll be possible to play morally questionable characters in a heroic RPG. James said that some heroes are not necessarily always infallibly good. Some heroes are like Superman, while others are more like Deadpool. They're both heroes, but with very different motivations. The adventures from MCDM and the text in the rulebooks will assume that the characters are good people and want to help people who are in need. Monsters have a level indicating how powerful they are. Currently, there isn't any math for calculating monster level, but James's intention is that monster levels should correspond to player levels. 4 level 1 monsters is a good encounter for 4 level 1 heroes. Negotiation happens when the heroes enter into crucial bartering with powerful people. This isn't trying to gain entrance through a guard, it's not haggling over a price. It's when you need a local lord to lend you their military forces, or you want the goblin chieftain to not join the coming battle on the enemy's side. Negotiation balances interest and patience. How inclined someone is to help you, and how long they'll entertain your offers. If you make an argument that mentions one of the NPC's motivations, their interest increases. If you mention a pitfall, something the NPC does not like hearing mentioned, their interest decreases. If you make a good argument, but don't mention the NPC's motivations or pitfalls, you make a roll. Roll well, and the NPC is swayed by your argument. Each time you make an argument not mentioning a motivation, the NPC's patience decreases. The goal is to get the NPC as interested as possible before their patience runs out. The interest of the NPC determines how willing they are to meet your demands. The higher the interest, the more willing they are to give help. Very high interest makes them not only help you, they might even throw in something extra. Very low interest at the end of the negotiation, however, makes them decline your request, and the NPC might even actively sabotage you. The rules will include a template for different starting conditions of negotiations, depending on the disposition of the NPC towards the heroes. That way, the director will have something to jump off of when it comes to setting values for patience and interest. The RPG uses squares as its single unit of length. The size of a square is ultimately decided by the director. The rules will recommend that a square is 5 by 5 feet, which makes the rules make sense. A lot of battle maps, existing and future ones, are also designed with that assumption. The rules also mention that something like 1 or 2 meters or 1 yard may work as well. MCDM doesn't have a team to do translation as of yet, but they'd love to be able to translate the rules later. There's been some talk about translations in the community. Matt mentioned months ago that they might be open to third parties translating the RPG, and there is a community effort started by Luztak on the Discord to translate the Patreon packet to Spanish. At the start of the crowdfunding campaign, MCDM announced that longtime patrons will receive the PDFs of the Heroes and Monsters books for free. The requirement is that you've been a patron for 5 consecutive months prior to the release. They don't know when the RPG will be done, so it's hard to say proactively when the 5-month cutoff will be. So this is basically a reward exclusive to long-running patrons, and not an easier or cheaper way to get the RPG. To paraphrase Matt, patrons are paying to see the game made, warts and all, and they get access to early, rough versions of the rules. Backers of the crowdfunder are paying for polish. Backers should not join the Patreon only to discover a janky version of the RPG, only to get upset. Patrons received a playtest packet on the 26th of December. The packet includes some pre-generated characters, the core rules, an adventure to run, and the needed monster stat blocks. Backers of the crowdfunding campaign will probably see a packet in the middle of 2024. If you're in now, you won't have to wait for 2025 to play the game. In one of the Patreon updates this month, they showed off the first draft of the monster stat block designs. With a lot of visual guidance, the blocks are looking very good so far. They are included in the playtest packet for the patrons. People are curious about the classes, but the fact is that only a few have prototypes which can be used in testing, and most of the others are only ideas. So what's told about the classes is very much any guarantee of how they might turn out. The classes to be included in the Heroes book haven't even been decided for certain yet. The first class being worked on is the Tactician. The goal is to figure out what the first 3 levels will look like and what subclasses will look like. The Fury is back. It was never really gone, but it changed name to the Reaver for a while to avoid confusion about the name of the class being Fury and its heroic resource being named Fury. The Fury has a lot of fury. The heroic resource is now called Rage instead. The Operator uses a mech called a Frame in their heroic deeds. Operators are not common in Orden, and if they end up in the core rules, very unlikely, there'll probably be some language about them not being common and coordinating with the director if you want to play one. Matt suggested people in Vasloria might call it a Clockwork Night, while people in Capital would just say, whoa, and move on with their lives. The Operator manages power as their heroic resource. Power doesn't increase or decrease, but it's allocated to different parts of the frame to best suit the situation. Power to the legs for faster running, power to the arms for heavy lifting, power to the head for better scanning of the environment. According to James, the Operator may not be a core class, but it will be made. To quote him, it's too dope not to. The Troubadour is currently looking a bit swashbucklery, but their main focus is going to be singing and playing songs. While singing and playing songs, they grant buffs to allies and debuffs to enemies. There's also focus on making homebrewing classes easy. They're trying to make sure leveling doesn't present too many options. Too many options is cool when you're a player, but it's super tedious if you're trying to homebrew. MCDM is trying to strike a balance. Moving on to something apart from the RPG. I did say in the previous episode that MCDM was done with 5e content, only to be contradicted when they released the revised Illrigger. This new version is, according to MCDM, less weird and more in line with other 5e class designs. There's also 2 new subclasses. The redesign has been done by Sadie Lowry. The old version will still be available for those who want it and already use it. The revised Illrigger is available for free to all who purchased the original version, including those that got it through Patreon. There's currently a bundle on the MCDM shop and the Drive-Thru RPG for all of Arcadia, all 30 issues for $30. That's the steal of a century. Links in the episode description. Here are some highlight creations from the MCDM community from the last month. Reddit user Pigbenjord shared magic items flavored specifically for the Illrigger. Reddit user Kernel17 is at it again with new retainers from the Timescape. This time it's the Court of Decay, the Celestial Court, the World Below, and Axiom. How about the Loch Ness Monster as a pet companion? Reddit user Fathomless Seer have the stat block for you. Flea Mortals introduced alternative rules for calculating CR and building encounters. Reddit user Gavin Wads has made a calculator to help you with the math. Harmonic Huel from the Discord has put together a minigame for ship combat for D&D 5th edition. It has a World War II inspired aesthetic, with leviathans on the sea being attacked by wyverns in the sky. On the Discord, Roy Sauce has reworked a bunch of the races in D&D 5th edition with the intention of making them more distinct and give them more fun interactions. Errant91 on the Discord has made a custom class specializing in spell slinging. They specialize in using cantrips and can cast multiple cantrips on their turn. Landwaker on YouTube has created a song about the Chain of Akron coming to Capital. Links to all these creations can be found in the episode description. Sometimes MCDM shows up outside of our community. I've included some of these occurrences in the list of links in the episode description. Also, if you head to goblinpoints.com, you can now read transcripts of all the episodes. The site is rather simple, but it does the job for now. If you have anything you want to be included next time, send me an email at tips@goblinpoints.com. Until next time, snackis.